Hello, everyone. So my name is Nurul Akmar, and I'm currently working with HearMe Malaysia. And we are an NGO of parents, a parent advocacy group with children with hearing loss. All right, so I am going to talk about inclusive teaching practices focusing on children with hearing loss, but I believe that some of the practices I suggest would be applicable to other kids with disabilities as well. So next slide, please. So first of all, when we talk about children with disabilities, we have to consider the challenges that they're facing in the classroom. So some of the challenges being language delay or deficit, and this is particularly prevalent among kids with hearing loss. Because of their hearing loss, basically they have limited access to sound, even with hearing aids or other hearing devices. Learning difficulty, even though sometimes learning difficulty might manifest itself in a way similar to language delay, it is not to be confused because they're separate. They might have difficulty in understanding speech, multiple speakers. So in the classroom, sometimes during discussion, we have a lot of students talking at the same time. So this is difficult for students with hearing loss to capture who is talking because the sounds might, converge. Challenges in expressing language, most probably due to their limited vocabulary. Understanding abstract concepts, especially because they are visual and hands-on learners. And another one is sound localization. So this is a true story in my own experience, because even though the students hear that I'm calling her, she didn't know where I'm calling her from. So those are the challenges for students with disabilities. Next slide. Right, so some of the accommodations that I would suggest, physical, is prefer, oh my God, it is very hard for me to pronounce the word. Preferential seating. Oh my God, my tongue is failing me today, right? But what it doesn't necessarily mean sitting at the front of the class, because with children with hearing loss, they might not be able to see who is talking if the people talking are behind them. So we can seat them maybe in the second or third row, and maybe a little bit to the side so that they can see everyone who is talking. Use FM system. It's actually a mini microphone that goes directly to the hearing devices. So you will always sound like you are only 6 inches away from the child. And we have to ensure that we have good classroom acoustics. So basically, if we have children with hearing loss and other disabilities, we should place them in a classroom that is away from noisy hallways or construction site in order to help them to listen without much, competing sounds. Next slide. So teaching and learning practices, and I feel like this is applicable to online learning as well. First is to provide notes so that they can preview the lesson that they are going to learn. Provide listening breaks. So listening for kids with hearing loss is hard work. For us, it might seem natural, but for them, listening is something that they train to do. So by providing listening breaks, it allows them to regroup and also to process what they have learned before. Definitely use a lot of visual aids, and this is beneficial not just for kids with hearing loss, but even typical kids who do not have any learning challenges. And make sure that all of our videos are captioned, whether it's online or whether in a classroom setting. It is very important that even though the child can hear, we do not make hearing a chore. Yes. So next slide. I would also suggest pre-teaching, especially for vocabulary. So this is so that they can directly assess the content rather than thinking about the meaning of the words that they're going to learn in the content. Show first the I do, we do, you do approach, because they learn by hands-on, by demonstration, lots of repetition, and this concept, concrete, pictorial, and abstract. Because they're visual hands-on learners, it is hard for them to learn abstract concepts. So we start from something that they can see or experience and then move on to pictures and only then to abstract. Next slide. So the conclusion is that inclusive practices do not only benefit students with disability, but also students who are developing typically. And I want to highlight that accommodations are not special treatment just because a child receives, for example, one-on-one instruction, or maybe notes, or maybe extra visual aids. It does not mean that we are giving special treatment. We are helping that child to access content, instruction, the curriculum in ways that is helpful or more suitable to that child. Right, so I think that's all from me.
Yeah, thank you very much. My background is from special needs as well in Finland. And I think this is really great, because I do agree with you fully that it's beneficial for all the students. And I think this is kind of part of that we sometimes forget when we talk about differentiation and stuff like that, that you can actually differentiate the learning environment as well. So it's not only the special needs students, but some students would like to have total silence. Some of them, like myself, I always like to do my homework when I was in the school near the kitchen table in our house, when there was all noises and my sisters and brothers running. I couldn't do any of my homework in silence. But some students are different. Some need more light, some like maybe a dimmer light. So all this kind of adjusting the learning environment with individual needs is, I think, the way we should be moving towards. Thank you very much for sharing.
I'm going to interrupt you, Yusi, because I think this has led me to a special question. We talk about accommodations in the classroom for special needs students. Do you think that there are any accommodations in the online classroom that we need to make?
So from what I have heard from the students I work with and their parents, there hasn't been any kind of accommodation for the students. So, and I feel like this is disadvantageous to them, because more than anything, this is the time in which they need the support. I mean, online learning is already hard for typical students, and for them, it is even more challenging. And I feel like apart from access in terms of like internet, I feel like teachers need to work more on different strategies. So definitely there has to be teaching, maybe recorded mini lessons. I think that would be helpful, because like I said earlier, these students benefit a lot from visual and hands-on learning. So assigning tasks is okay, but not enough.
Okay, so basically you're saying if you make a video, try and put captions on it so that they can read along.
Yes.
Well, you can do that automatically actually with some apps. So,
yes.
So it's finding ways to make sure that all levels of student can access.
Yes,
Awesome.
very true.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.